Hello, welcome to I Have, He Has, and last week we reviewed a Carpenter
President
Jesus
of
Christ!
Hello, welcome to I Have, He Hasn't, the show where you see the perspectives of a new audience and a returning audience. Today is a special edition of I Have, He Hasn't, where instead of one of us seeing it and one of us not, it's we have, we haven't. Now, I know I was supposed to be the thing at the end of last week's review, but I got better.
God.
Escape from New York.
John Carpenter's Escape from New York. The greatest escape of them all is about to blow the future apart.
Okay, so as we said, we've both seen Escape from New York before. Escape from New York is directed by John Carpenter, was released in 1981, along with another bunch of stuff that came out within those few years. He was really cranking movies out at that time.
Good movies, too.
Yeah, good movies. Escape from New York follows Snake Plissken, played by Kurt Russell. He is a criminal who committed some crime or whatever before.
Well, apparently in 1988, the crime rate shoots up 400%. Like, it skyrockets, and it goes to such a point where they have to cut off New York from the rest of the United States, and they wall off Manhattan Island, and they put all of the, like, big high-profile prisoners in there, and there's no guards inside the prison. They just have their own little society within Manhattan Island.
It's hell, and Snake Plissken is given the job of trying to rescue the president who has just crashed into the island in some sort of escape from a plane that was about to be taken over, and he's injected with some weird pill or something that is gonna kill him in 22 hours if he doesn't do his job and rescue the president, and if he does that successfully, he's free to go.
Yep. He is exonerated from all crimes that he has committed within the United States. So he is free.
Escape from New York has a long list of well-known actors in it. Kurt Russell is the lead, of course. There's Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, who is Mermaid Man from SpongeBob.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton.
Who was the guy who said Bruce Banner had a condition in the Avengers.
Isaac Hayes.
Who is Chef from South Park. And if you ask, who is Chef from South Park? Get out of here, you 12-year-old.
Yeah. Adrienne Barbeau.
Who is Catwoman from Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, and other stuff too. Lee Van Cleef.
Who is from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
And Donald Pleasence as the President of the United States.
Who was Dr. Loomis in Halloween, another John Carpenter movie.
Exactly. And they're all good in the movie, of course. Kurt Russell is just awesome. He was doing really...
He's a badass.
He's a badass. He was doing really good movies. Was he doing a lot of action movies in the 80s?
Yeah, he was sort of trying to separate himself from the image of a Disney performer, because that's what he was when he was a small child and pretty much into his teenage years. But in the 80s, he turned it around with stuff like The Thing, this movie, Big Trouble in Little China, a bunch of Carpenter stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Clearly was a favorite of his. So why did we pick this movie? We both seen it before. Well, we love the movie. We think it's a really good movie, and it should get more exposure. It does have a cult following, but...
Yeah. And just because neither of us had seen it in a little while, and we wanted to see it again.
Yeah. So we wanted to see how it holds up, and it's just, like, it's a John Carpenter movie, so anything early Carpenter is worth reviewing, worth exploring. So, has it changed at all since your first viewing, or what was it like in your first viewing?
On my first viewing, a few things stood out as weird to me, and I was kind of put off by that. But I've kind of gotten over that. Like the whole tone of New York. I wanted it to be. I don't know what I wanted it to be, but just
the tone of the movie.
The tone of
atmosphere.
The atmosphere of New York. It's very like tribal sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought it would be cooler if it was just like all for themselves, and they show that not everything is terrible in New York. There are like separate little sections that just kind of mind to themselves. They watch shows in the old theaters and stuff, and they read books and stuff. Like, I thought it would just be cool if it was all bad, but I guess making it not so bad in some parts adds, like, depth to it. It makes it seem like more of a real place that could actually happen. I don't know, something like that.
I have an interesting relationship with it. The first time I saw it, I definitely noticed the slow pacing. It is quite slow. It wasn't exactly the movie I was expecting. Like, he thought there's some parts that were a little odd. And then the second time I watched it, I actually liked it quite a bit more. This time watching it now, I gotta say, it went down a little bit. I still thought
Really?
Yeah. I still think it's a good movie. There's still things I admire about it, which we'll get to in a second. But I think what I admire the most about the movie is actually the premise, and I think they could have done more with it. Like you said, like the tribal thing and all that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of interesting things a lot of interesting places they could have gone with it, and I felt like they didn't quite do that. But again, there's still a lot of things I admire. Do you want to get into that?
There is unexplored areas of what they could have done, but
Yeah.
like, you can't really mark it down for something it didn't set out to do. Like,
It just feels like more
yeah.
simple than I think I wanted it to be, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I kind of got over that on the first viewing, but I totally see what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
there is room for improvement, but it's still a really good, like, early 80s John Carpenter movie that with Kurt. It's one of his few, like, action movies, I think. Or
He's done some action.
He's about, like, 50-50, like, action and horror. Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Carpenter movies. I don't know about you.
I would say it's one of my favorite Carpenter
okay.
movies.
I think
I
you
wouldn't
like it
say
more
it's
than me.
A lot of people say it's like one of their favorite movies. Period. I would
Yeah.
say it's one of my favorite Carpenter movies.
This movie definitely has a big cult fan base.
Yes.
I would just say I'm more of a casual viewer of it. I don't view it as a great movie, but I still enjoy it for what it is.
Says the guy who's gotten John Carpenter's autograph at Comic-Con.
Not for this movie.
Yeah,
no.
not for that movie.
But yeah, like, again, we won't get into. We could talk all day about Carpenter and his other movies, but yeah,
he's been praised enough by other people on the internet.
Yeah, back
not
in the
that
day,
he doesn't deserve it.
Back in the day, he was really okay. Anyway, I think the production design was for the most part pretty cool. Again, I think they could have done more, but for what they did, there's some pretty cool scenes of just wreckage, and they do nail, I think, the characters that are just, like scumbags living on the streets and stuff. There's Ernest Borgnine as a cabbie.
No, his name is Cabbie.
His name is Cabbie, yeah. I really liked his performance in the movie. Ernest Borgnine's a likable guy for sure, so I really liked him in the movie. Isaac Hayes is like the leader of the criminal
He's
area.
basically the kingpin of all crime in New York. It's not called New York. He's basically their president inside New York, Manhattan Island.
This is probably the only movie I've seen Isaac Hayes in, because I think like most people were used to just hearing him on South Park. So it's sad to say that this movie actually features 3 of its ensemble members that are sadly gone.
Donald Pleasence, Isaac Hayes, and Ernest Borgnine.
So in addition to those characters we've already mentioned, there's also Harry Dean Stanton and Adrienne Barbeau, who play like just 2 characters. Like, it's just living. They're like criminals, honestly.
Brain is the Duke of New York's right-hand man. He's like the brains of the operation. And Adrienne Barbeau plays Brains, sort of like they call her his squeeze.
I guess like watching this again, I didn't necessarily think the characters were the most necessary to the plot. I don't know if you agree with that, but I mean, I enjoyed their screen time. John Carpenter is also known for doing his scores on at least most of his movies, so he's a director and a composer and often a writer and producer.
Yes.
He did amazing themes for Halloween, The Thing,
Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah. So he has the theme for this movie, of course, as well. I thought the score was pretty good for the most part.
It's cool.
It definitely adds to this kind of movie where it's kind of gritty and dirty and dingy. But I think my favorite track is, of course, what you recognize from the the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, which is the main theme.
Yeah.
He was really good at those kind of themes. If you hear it, if you ever see the movie, you'll recognize it.
Well, let's give it a listen. That was good.
And if you don't hear that, it's because of copyright infringement. The end chase is probably one of the better parts of the movie, but it wasn't as suspenseful as I remember. But again, it's also surprising what happens in that finale. If you've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I just want to mention, me and Chris watched this on the European Blu-ray for Escape from New York. I swear, I don't buy European movies like exclusively, like you might think. I just have done that in the show twice. But this is the European Blu-ray, and it does have more special features than the American Blu-ray. But they are in the PAL format, so only certain Blu-ray players here in the States will actually play them. But from what we saw, the picture quality is alright. We haven't seen the US one, so...
Alright, so Escape from New York, even though I thought a little bit lesser of it watching it again, I still think you should own this movie if you love movies. It's definitely got that early 80s, 70s action feel. I would certainly still recommend it.
Well, I will say I did buy it on Blu-ray for a reason. I did like it a lot this time around, like my 5th time watching it. And I will say, if you have seen the movie already, it's worth another watch. Like, if you're thinking about it, like, oh, should I buy the Blu-ray or something and watch it again? Yeah, totally. It's a cool movie. It's still cool after all these years. So yeah, watch it again.
So what do you say about reviewing the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween?
Nah, I'm tired of watching John Carpenter's work get raped by other people. Let's see him rape himself.